All right, let's do it. This is just the kind of timber.
This is another kind.
This is just the kind of timber. Listen, this is just the kind of timber. This is another kind. This is just the kind of timber. Oh, yeah!
If you can talk, you can sing. There is really nothing to it.
Breathe in, breathe out, add a little vibrato. Yes, anyone can sing, but you gotta be consistent.
Know your do re mi is just like 1, 2, 3.
You will be the best and you will sing so well. It's time to sing with Frank at TBL.
Hello, everybody. You're welcome to your favorite program, Sing with Frank at TVL. So, today we're going to be discussing voice types. Yeah. You see, you don't have to be a singer to have a voice type. As long as you have a voice, you are already a voice type. So, what are voice types? Voice types are typically classified based on the vocal range and timbre. There he goes again. What in the world is timbre? Frank keeps throwing these big words at us. It's not a difficult word, okay? It's a very simple word. Timbre simply means the quality or color of a singer's voice. These classifications are often used in classical music, opera, and choral singing, but can also apply to other genres. Okay, so before we go on, I'd like to demonstrate with this made-up song an example of how your tone can be of different colors. So listen. All right, let's do it. This is just the kind of timber.
This is another kind.
This is just the kind of timber. Listen, this is just the kind of timber. This is another kind. This is just the kind of timber. Oh, yeah! So, I started with a voice that's kind of maybe raspy, like I'm talking right now. This is a different kind of timbre, like a raspy kind of timbre.
And this is a different kind of timbre, like a kind of a nasal timbre.
And maybe this is a kind of timbre too. I don't know what to call this one.
Hey, this is yet another one.
Okay, so timbre is simply the color of a singer's voice. Okay, now let's look at a breakdown of the main voice types we have. In classifying voice types, we use several things. So a lot of people use just the range. How high can she sing? How high can he sing? Or how low can he or she sing? Well, that's just one of the tools used to determine a voice type. Okay, there are several other things. Now, some of these determining factors apart from range are your transition points. Transition point means when does your chest voice transition to mixed voice, and when does your mixed voice transition to head voice? So there's a point a chest voice gets to and it's like, oh, I can't go any farther. I want to switch now to mixed voice. Thank you. And it switches to mixed voice. Okay, so for a soprano kind of voice is in a different area, and when compared to an alto singer is yet in a different area. Okay, and these are the things we are going to look at as we move on. So we're not going to use just range. Range is not enough. These days, a tenor singer can develop their voice to reach the highest range of the soprano and the lowest range maybe of the baritone. It's very possible. So when you use range alone, that doesn't determine or help you to determine much. So apart from the transition point, another thing we use to determine the voice type is one I mentioned in the beginning, which is the talking voice. Do you know, or did you know, that your talking voice is or gives someone a clue of how your singing would sound like? Let's say someone is talking like this naturally. Yeah, tell me all about it. Tell me all about it. I'm listening. If this is naturally the person's talking voice, you already have a clue how the singing is going to sound. So that's another determining factor. All right. So there are other things, but the main thing I want to discuss today is the various voice types that we have. Like I said, you must have heard soprano, about soprano voices, mezzo soprano, contralto, alto, tenor, baritone, bass. Yes, let's find out more about these voices today. Okay, so the first category of people or voice types we're going to be looking at, they are called the sopranos. The sopranos sing the highest. They sing it naturally. So let's look at their range first. So generally, sopranos sing as low as the C4 to C6. What does the C4 sound like? So this is C4. C2, C3. Anything below this, they begin to struggle. And they sing as high as the C6. Yeah, so that's the range of the sopranos. So even in sopranos, we have different kinds of sopranos. So we have the lyric soprano. The lyric soprano, their voices are light, bright, and very expressive. That's the lyric soprano. And then the next one, another kind of sopranos we have, they're called dramatic soprano. Their voices are powerful, with a fuller, darker sound. And the next kind of sopranos we have, they're called coloratura sopranos. Now, this kind of sopranos are virtuosic in nature, capable of executing fast, intricate vocal runs. Now, I'm sure you might be thinking of a couple of people you think sound like coloratura sopranos right now. Next in our range, now we've looked at the sopranos and the different kind of sopranos we have. Next, we go to the mezzo sopranos. So we have the sopranos, we have the mezzo sopranos. These can sing high also, just like the sopranos, but a little lower, okay? Now, the range of the mezzo sopranos is typically from A3 to A5. What does A3 sound like? So this is A2, this is A3. Guess what? It's just 3 notes below the lowest of sopranos. So it's not far apart from the sopranos. And the highest range is around A5. So A5 is this. So if this is A2, A3, this is A4, and this is A5. Did you hear that? So that's the range of the mezzo sopranos. But let's look at the types, the subtypes of mezzo sopranos we have. So we have the lyric mezzo soprano. Just like we have the lyric soprano, we have lyric mezzo soprano. These voices are warm and smooth. Okay? And then we have the dramatic mezzo sopranos. These kind of voices are richer and fuller, often with a darker tone, just like the sopranos. And then finally, we have the contralto mezzo. This is the lowest kind of mezzo sopranos and is closer to contralto range. Do you know the lowest kind of female voices? Come on. If you are in a choir or in a group or something, you might just know this one, that there's something missing out from the female voices, and it's called the alto voices. Another word for it is the contralto. Okay, so that's like the formal name or formal way to refer to it. The informal kind of way is the alto. So alto, contralto, they are the same thing. Now, the alto voices, like I said, is the lowest category of female voices, and the range is, let's say, roughly from F3 to F5. Now, let's listen to the lowest note of the alto voices. So We said it's an F3. This is how F3 sounds. And then the highest is F5. That's it. Now let's take a look at the subtypes of altos we have. There's actually a category of altos called contralto. This is the lowest female voice, often dark and rich. And then we have another type of altos called the mezzo alto, slightly lighter than a contralto, but still lower than most sopranos. So I want to clarify something. When we talk about dark in music, we are not talking about the absence of light. No, neither are we talking about evil. No, we are talking about frequency. So when you say something is darker in tone, it means it lacks the full frequency that it should have. Okay, so for instance, something bright like could be and then something darker could be Did you hear that? And we're done with the female voice types. So let's summarize. We have the sopranos, we have the mezzo sopranos, and then we have the altos. And then we look at the various subcategories of these three. Okay, now we're moving into the male voice types. The first one is the tenor. The tenor sing the highest. Okay, so their range is generally from B2 to C5. So this is B2, E2, C5, which is around here. Okay, so that's the range of tenors. Again, we have different kind of tenors in the tenor voice. Okay, so we have a type of tenor called the lyric tenor. Lyric just means the voice is light and smooth with a bright high sound. So lyric tenors are light and smooth voices with a bright and high sound. And then we have the dramatic kind of tenors. Now this kind of tenor singers, they have a more powerful and fuller sound with a darker color. Finally, we have a different kind of tenors. Interestingly, they are called the Helden tenors. It's a kind of heroic, powerful voice, often used in Wagnerian operas. So let's move to the next kind of male voice types. So we've looked at the tenors, now is the turn of the baritones. Now baritone, the range is typically from G2 to G4. Let's hear how they sound. G2 is this. E to G4, which sounds like this. Again, we have different kind of baritones. We have the lyric baritone, which is warm and mellow with a smooth tone. Dramatic baritone is another kind of baritone we have. It's fuller and stronger with more intensity. And then we have the Verdi baritone. It's a specific dramatic baritone type often used in operas by Giuseppe Verdi. Now, let's look at the lowest kind of male voice. I told you some male singers can sing down to the bass, as low as the bass, and as high as even the sopranos or mezzo soprano. So if you are using just range to determine voice type, this wouldn't be enough. Because someone like me, I can reach bass and I can reach sopranos easily, okay? So let's look at the bass. The range for bass is generally from E2 to E4. Let's hear how this sounds. E2 to E4. Where is E? E. So let's look at the different kind of bass voices we have. The first one is the basso profondo. And this is the lowest male voice type with a very deep resonant tone. And the next one is the basso buffo, a lighter, more agile bass, often used for comic roles. Finally, the last type of bass we have is dramatic bass, often powerful and darker than other basses, suited to more serious roles. Now we've looked at all the voice types we have, but really, is that all? Well, let's look at an additional classification. So we have the countertenor, which is usually male voices. Now their range is usually from G3 to D5, though it can extend even higher. Okay, so G3 to D5, let's listen to how it sounds. G3, E to D5. Okay, where is it? Okay, now so let's take a look at the description of the countertenor. It's a male voice that sings in the falsetto register, often used to replicate the range of a mezzo soprano or contralto, common in Baroque music. Okay, so if you have any question, don't forget to email me at info@thevocallexicon.co.uk. So here's what I want you to do. You tell me what voice type you think you are.